Hello, everyone. Hello. We are here with our newly published author, Troy McClain, and we are excited to find out and to learn more about his journey in creating a wonderful masterpiece. And we have before us Troy Lamont McClain, and he has recently, as in maybe a day ago, published a book, and we are excited. We are definitely excited to read this book and to learn of his journey in creating this book. So Troy McClain, thank you for being here on tonight.
Yes, thank you for having me. And thank you all for watching.
All right, so we want to know, when did you realize you wanted to be an author?
Wow, that's a great question. As far as when I wanted to be an author, I don't think there was ever a definitive point where I wanted to be. I think that for me, it was just something that was always in me. It was just something that I wanted to do. I started writing in about second grade maybe, and during that time I never really took it seriously. I would just write little stuff that would come to my mind, write little poems, I would hear songs and I would write little, my little version of the song, things like that. And that turned into, when I was at about sixth grade maybe, sixth grade, my brother passed away. He was shot and killed when I was 11. And he had a notebook full of raps, and I decided, oh man, I'm gonna keep his legacy going, because my brother was my role model. He was somebody that I really looked up to and that I really admired, because he was so congenial. Everybody liked him. And I just decided, you know what? I'm gonna take writing seriously. I'm gonna start keeping a record of the things I write. So it started in the form of poetry, and it just kind of branched off from there. When I got in high school, that's where I started writing plays. I started writing stories at that time, so my writing began to grow and mature. I don't think that there was a very definitive moment to say, oh, I'm gonna be an author. But I think it just, as I began to mature and continue to enjoy writing, it just naturally happened. And here, as of late, the particular book that was published was a project that came to me out of prayer. It's been about 10 years in the making, but it came to me out of prayer. I'll go into that, I guess, a little bit later, but it was something that just came to me out of prayer, and the Lord revealed it to me, and I just started writing, and the Lord did the rest. And now here we are today talking about something that God placed in my spirit.
Awesome. So it's something that you learned of as you was a little boy.
Yeah.
Awesome. So how long did it take you to write this particular piece?
Wow, great question. I'm almost ashamed to say this, but the original piece came to me in 2010. In 2010, I had just gotten saved about a year and a half prior to that. And again, I was in prayer, and words were coming to me. And I began to write the words down. And surprisingly enough, it turned into about 2 or 3 pages that sat in my notes of writings. It sat in my collection of writings for about 9 years. Maybe we'll even say 10. It was about 9 or 10 years that it sat in this collection of my writings, and I wanted to continue it, but I was afraid, because I was afraid that and yes, I was afraid. Yes, I was afraid. I was afraid because I thought that it would not be good enough. I thought that it would, that whatever came out of me wasn't going to suffice, because that original part came out of prayer, and I'm like, okay, maybe God just wants it to stop there. I was so nervous that it wasn't going to be good enough, so I left it on the shelf, even though it kept coming back to my mind, it kept coming back to my heart. Finish this. I just kept putting it off. But about 2 years ago, I said, you know what? I'm going to do what God has birthed in my heart to do. God wants me to do some things, and I am going to begin doing them. And I picked that story up, and I began writing again. And since I've picked it back up, it's taken a little while. But the original piece was written in 2010, and it was completed roughly a week ago, and now here it is published. So I guess we can say 11 years. Man, but one thing about God that I've learned about him is that he truly, time is of no essence to him. He can take what we put on the back burner. He can take something that we thought we're too old to do or too young to do, and he can speed time up. He can slow it down. He is in control of it. So, I'm grateful for him. The thing of the matter is, time is not what he's worried about. He's worried about our willingness and our obedience to what he told us to do. And it wasn't until I decided to be obedient to what I felt God told me to do that he began to speed up and streamline the process. And he made it so easy and so effortless to write it, to the point where I stopped simply because I felt like it was time to publish it, but I could have put so much more in there. So again, I don't want to start preaching, but to answer the question, it has to complete it from start to finish. It has taken me about 11 years. So this is my baby. Awesome.
And I know that you spoke of being fearful.
Yes.
With this project here.
Yes.
So what can you say to those people that have a thought, or they might have an idea, but they're scared or fearful to just get out the boat and walk on the water? So what do you say to them?
Well, one, your thought will always be a thought as long as it's a thought. In order for it to come to fruition, in order for it to ever manifest, you have to get up and take that step. I know that we're fearful, this is not going to work, this is not going to succeed, but you don't know that. That's you anticipating something that has not come to pass yet. But one thing is for certain, if you don't take the initiative and if you don't take the chance to try, you will never know. And furthermore, if God himself puts something in your heart, if he has enough sense to give you a gift, to give you an idea, to give you an ability, and he has enough power to craft you to be able to do it, he has enough sense and he has enough power to bring it to pass. So what I would say to you is, just do it. Just try. You will never know if you don't try. So put your best foot forward and say, you know what? I'm going to try this. Because you know what? Failing at something is not the end of it. You don't actually fail until you stop trying. So just do it. Just do it. Because at the end of the day, if one person buys my book, I did my job. I did what God told me to do. He didn't tell me to convince the whole world to buy it. He just told me to write it. So I did my job. So I say to you today, just do your job. Whatever God told you to do. If he told you to bake biscuits, you better bake them biscuits better than anybody around. Bake them biscuits. I mean, hot and ready. Little Caesars won't have nothing on you. Bake them biscuits and get them out to the people. So, don't be, I'm not going to say don't have fear. I'm going to say don't let fear stop you. Don't let it stop you. Fear is going to be there. We're human. So I'm not going to get up here and tell you, oh, you ain't going to be afraid. You're going to be fearful and nervous and anxious. But don't let that stop you. That's my answer to that question.
Yes, and that's such great advice. Thank you for that. Yeah. And I know that you said earlier that your brother was like inspiration for this book. Yeah. But what else can you tell us? What inspiration or what, where did you get your thoughts or your ideas about this particular piece? Where did that come from?
The Holy Ghost. But no, it is loosely based on true events. I don't want to say too much into it because I don't want to give a lot of things away. But I will say that it is loosely based on true events. As I was writing it and when I came to the finish of it, God revealed to me, because I didn't even catch this, but God revealed to me that metaphorically it is speaking of so much more than what I thought that it was speaking of. I thought I was just writing, but there's a metaphoric and a symbolic message in it that I was not aware of. So the inspiration came from real true events that have occurred, and it's loosely based on many of them. So for those of you, there will be some of you who will be rather surprised when you read this book. But just let the Lord bless you real good. So it was definitely inspired through prayer. There was much prayer and true real life events that have taken place influenced it.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. So what was one of the most surprising things you learned in writing this book? Was there anything surprising or interesting that you found out maybe about yourself? You know, is there anything that you would like to share with us?
Well, there's a lot of stuff I found out. One, that it takes a lot to actually properly write a book. I found out that editing a book is more than proofreading. Proofreading is just essentially making sure that punctuality is right, or that, that you got your, that you didn't skip a word or something to that effect. But there's so much more in editing. You have to make sure that the flow of your story is proper, and you have to make sure that the story is cohesive. You can't talk about call a man Billy in chapter 1, but in chapter 8 his name is John, and then you're going to explain how he came from Billy to John. The concept of creating chapters was something that was new to, well, not new, but something that stretched me a little bit. I don't want to say the genre, but the style that the book is written in, it was really I don't want to say a strain, but it was a stretch of my ability, because I did not know that I could do it that long and in that manner. Because if I'm not mistaken, the book has about 77 pages, and to be able to do that long like that was very impressive. And I guess I'm gonna just go ahead and say it because it won't really ruin anything. But the book is written with a poetic vibe to it. It rhymes the entire way through. And I'll get into that other part later, but it rhymes the entire way through. So being able to write 77 pages of a story that has a poetic feel to it was definitely a stretch for me. The people who know me here in North Carolina, I used to go into many different churches and I would do spoken word poetry. I haven't done as much lately. They actually used to call me the prophetic poet. But that is to say that that's something that God has graced me to do. So it is essentially a 77-page poem with a story in it. So it's not just words, it's a story that actually means something, and there is Jesus in it. I do talk about Jesus, so I'm saved, yeah. So,
absolutely.
Yeah, those are some things I learned.
Absolutely. So you're saying that it's a book with a rhythmatic
yes.
flow.
Yes.
So we have to be careful as to how we read this book. Make
Absolutely.
Sure that we are reading it correctly.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
All right. Thank you for that one. So something else. What is it that you want your readers to get out of this book? What do you want them to take away from this masterpiece that you created?
Wow. A few things I could say, but one that I'm going to say in particular, if you don't get anything else, I want every reader of this book to understand that no matter where you are, that no matter where you have come from, God can transform your life. I don't care what you have done or who you did it to or who you did it with. God can and will transform your whole life. You don't know living your best life until you've come to Jesus. So I want you to understand that he can transform your life. The name of the book is Testimony, the story of a transformed life. And he will do that just for you the way that he did it for me. He transformed my life. Any sin you can name, I've done it. But he transformed me. And I'm sitting here today to say that Jesus is my choice. But the only way he can transform your life is if you receive him. If you accept him. So receive him today. When you read this book, don't just, it's a story. And I believe it's a good story. But don't just read it just to read it. But read it and take it in. Catch the message and the principle behind it. And I pray that it will change somebody's life. That's what I want them to get out of it.
That's awesome. The story of a transformed life.
Yes.
Wow, that's very powerful. And I'm just excited to get my hands on that book because I do believe that God can transform our lives.
Yes.
He really can do that, and it doesn't matter where we find ourselves. And God can definitely transform our lives. So thank you for just allowing God to use you in that area.
Yes.
Absolutely. So our next question is, so do you desire to have any other pieces after this one? Or could this possibly potentially be a movie?
Okay. I don't want to let too much out of the bag, but I will say, in terms of the latter part of the question, in terms of it becoming a movie, I would not say that it will, and I would not say that it won't. But what I will say is keep your eyes open, because you might see something after a while. But in terms of other pieces, I do have full intent to manifest a series out of this. I do have the intent to branch out other books. I definitely have intent to do that. When that will take place, at the moment, I'm not particularly sure. It's obviously upon the leading of the Lord, but I do have intent to do so. Additionally, I also want to say, like I said, keep your eyes open, because there may be a movie, there may not be. But if there is, it would definitely be a big thing, and I'll make sure everybody is aware of it. So, yeah, I definitely want to turn it into a series.
All right, awesome.
Yeah. Harry Potter ain't the only one that can have a series.
Awesome.
We ain't talking about witches, wizards. Jesus.
So let's talk about your dedication to this book. I know we mentioned it a little bit earlier,
Okay.
but your dedication to this book.
Right.
What was your time like putting into this book? I know that you may have spent a lot of, hours late in the midnight hour, early morning hours. What was your, did you still work a full-time job? Maybe other readers or other authors out here, want some advice. Like, how did you use your time to write this book?
During the crafting of this book, I have been pastoring a church, balancing marriage, working a full-time job, as well as going to school, which I just graduated. Woo, woo. But I have balanced all of those things. There are times where I got up at 5:30, 4 o'clock in the morning to go work on this book. There are times where I did not go to bed until 1 and 2 o'clock in the morning because I was working on this book. And it wasn't always putting in new material. Sometimes it was going back saying this isn't good enough. Sometimes it was going back adding to it. Because I think as authors, we should be objective. And I think that we should not think, okay, I wrote this, so it's gold. No, I think that we have to be objective and say, you know what? This wording isn't right. Or the way that I brought this character in isn't good enough. Let me reword that. Let me go restructure what I'm doing. So I think being objective as an author to your own work will cause you to have a better piece, but not to get too off track. Like I said, there was a lot of things I had to balance, plenty other engagements and situations that I had to do. However, I was still able to get it done with and by the grace of God.
We thank you so much for that question, and I'm sure that it has been a challenge, especially, with the different roles that you have, being a husband, being a pastor, being a father, working on your job. So we truly thank you for your dedication to this piece here. So another question we have is, what can we look forward to in this book? So we understand that you are a pastor.
Correct.
So is this some type of theological piece that you submitted? Like, is this what this is? Tell us some more about your book.
Okay. Well, it's theological. It has theological undertones, but it is not a theological piece as to say, for example, here was my stance on this. When you go into the bookstore and you look for a book on prayer, you've got 600 books that talk about prayer. How to get your prayer answered. Why are your prayers not effective? Prayers that you can pray for this. Prayers that you can pray for that. Sometimes you don't know which one is the right book to pick. Sometimes you don't know if that person is actually giving you something that's actually biblical or actually correct theologically. We have an influx in an overflow of these books. But that's why I believe the Lord led me to write a story, This is a story, but it does not go against biblical principles. As a matter of fact, as you read this book, there are so many things in it that are biblical. As a matter of fact, there are people in this book who get saved. There's preaching, there's church, there's a lot of other things, but I don't want to give it away. But it's more than just a 10-step program on how to get delivered. It is something that shows you real life situations and how to apply the Word of God in a realistic situation and how it can work in your life based on how it has worked in the lives of other people.
Awesome. Definitely can't wait to read that. So tell us, where can we purchase your book?
Right now, it is available on Amazon. You can get the paperback or you could get the ebook. It is on there. The ebook right now is $6.99. No, it's $5.99 actually. The paperback is $15. It will be $15 for probably the next week or two. So I encourage you guys to go out there and buy it because after about a week or two, it's going to go up to the original price of $19.99. So please, go on Amazon, type in Testimony by Troy McClain. If you can't remember Testimony by Troy McClain, type the book title, Testimony, the Story of a Transformed Life. Either one of those will bring up the book, and you will see my name on there. If you have Kindle Unlimited, it is free to you because you pay your subscription. But please, I know some of us may be saying $15 or $20 for a book, but I want you to understand this right here, that the amount of effort and time and prayer that went into crafting this book, and the wealth of insight and benefit that you can glean from it, I think that it's well worth every bit of it. And we don't mind paying $20 to go to the movies. We don't mind paying $20 at Kentucky Fried Chicken for greasy chicken that's going to clog your arteries. But this is going to, open up your spiritual senses. This is going to benefit you spiritually. So please, my brothers and sisters, Amazon, Testimony, the book by Troy McClain, Testimony, the Story of a Transformed Life. And please also share this video. Get it into the hands of other people. Share. Get it into the hands of other people. But it's definitely on Amazon right now. And also there will be a book signing, and more information will be given on that later. But I personally will have physical hard copies. So if you don't look for it on Amazon, but you want a copy, inbox me, or my wife for that matter, and we will get a copy in your hands. So please just, let us know if you are interested. And Testimony, the book by Troy McClain.
Awesome job. So like he said, guys, Testimony, the book is now available. Yes. All you have to do is go to Amazon, type in Testimony by Troy McClain, and it will pop up in the search box. But thank you once again for your time, Mr. McClain, and we truly appreciate this awesome interview that you conducted on today. And we hope that you guys have a blessed rest of your evening. Thank you.
Goodbye. Bless you.